Welcome to Uncaged. Today we're speaking with Melody Jones. Melody is the co-founder of Vantage MBA admissions consulting. It's really obviously a valuable service for folks that aspire to go back to business school and get accepted at some of the top MBA programs in the US and Europe. And so Melody's been building this out. I'm excited to learn more about what she's been doing. But before we get there, Melody, let's talk a little bit about you and your career.
Sure. I consider myself to be a little bit of a late bloomer entrepreneur. I definitely did not catch the entrepreneurial bug in undergrad, not even in business school. I actually went to business school for a very different reason. But it kind of happened to me, I will say, and it's just been an incredibly amazing experience. But I'll tell you a little bit about how I got there. Out of undergrad, this was back in 2005, so dating myself a little bit. But kind of followed the bandwagon into finance, investment banking, like everyone else was doing at that time. And then, of course, rode out the financial crisis. I was actually at one of the failed banks during the financial crisis. And that's what really pushed me to go back to business school and really kind of reevaluate my career trajectory and really recenter my path on something that I was deeply passionate about and purposeful in pursuing. And so that set me down a path in working in brand management and marketing in the consumer packaged goods industry, actually. But at the same time, I started working as a freelance admissions consultant for other applicants that were going to business school. Because I really loved the mentoring component. That was something that I wasn't really getting in my full-time career. And so I was really hoping to accelerate that journey. And that's when I really just fell in love with the process, fell in love with being that coach, that mentor, that advisor to young people that are really looking for guidance and helping them really make the most of a rigorous application process. And so did that for a few years freelance, and then eventually started my own practice. And that was the launch of Vantage 7 years ago.
Yeah, Vantage today. So that's really exciting. I mean, I know that I've been going through the undergraduate process of that with my two teenage boys, of trying to help them navigate the admissions process.
Yeah.
And wow, I mean, what a process. I mean, it is not easy, and it certainly doesn't get any easier when you shift to the graduate school level. So tell me a little bit more about Vantage and where you guys are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we started off as just me and my co-founder working, one-on-one with clients. And since then, I've built and grown the team to 25 consultants and former admissions directors who also serve as advisors to our team internally, as well as to our clients as well, and helping give them that admissions lens that might be a little bit different from the applicant perspective and certainly from someone who's been through the application process like myself. So our business is really centered around a high-touch, client-centric model. We're not a volume-driven operation. We really focus on working with a specific profile of clients that are primarily targeting the top programs, are looking to put their best foot forward and really invest in this process and really go through the self-reflection and the necessary deep dives into your background and what drives you and what you really want to do in the future, so that you can create your most successful application, but also once you get to school, be a really successful and well-prepared student.
It's such an interesting thing. I in my career before launching some of the companies where I went off on my entrepreneurial journey, I actually did the marketing for business schools for a couple of the top business schools, for Kellogg and for ESA in Spain. And it was a really interesting time, because you do realize that the process of why someone goes to business school is perhaps maybe we don't think about it. Like, I mean, a lot of people seem to be at a life stage moment where they're kind of like, maybe they've fallen a little bit behind on moving their personal lives forward, but they also want to kind of move their career forward at the same time. one of the things that I stumbled on was a lot of people end up going back to the same industry. And I was always kind of like, wow, what is it about that? Like, you kind of leave finance and then you go and do it. It must be really interesting to kind of work through that question with applicants and kind of why they're doing this and I'm now, I mean, now you guys are what, 7, 8 years in. Tell me a little bit about kind of what you've seen with the folks you've worked with and how they've evolved.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, why you want this degree, right, is one of the most fundamental questions that an applicant needs to have a really strong answer to, and not everyone has that directly, right? Or sometimes the answer they have isn't good enough. And one example I'll use is our firm partners, in addition to working with individual applicants, we also offer our services as a benefit to one of the large consulting firms. And so
Hmm.
a whole crop of applicants that are applying to business school every year as part of their sponsorship program, and we advise them through the application process. And so for many of
Hmm.
those applicants, the decision hasn't necessarily had as much thought put into it as someone who is embarking on this journey alone and probably investing their own capital in the process also. But
Yeah.
being really thoughtful about sort of why you want to go do this, not just because your employer is paying for it or everyone around you is doing it, but why is this something that's going to benefit you, not just in the short term, to your point, right? Some people do often go back to their same industries, hopefully in a more senior level, and then in most cases that is the case, but it's really a long-term investment. And you really,
Yeah.
where do you want to be in 10 years and 20 years? And how is a degree and the benefits that you get from this experience going to continue to pay dividends in the long run?
Oh, I mean, I think that based on the people that we've hired, my own experiences with graduate school, it's tremendously valuable. So I hope everyone does it for sure.
It's a life changer, truly, in so many ways.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, I feel like over the last couple of years, and really kind of started during the pandemic, the whole admissions process has dramatically changed. I have been involved with my alumni network. I attended Duke. With kind of the way they've approached things, and we see a lot of the standardized testing now being optional. A lot of the things that would have been pillars and stress points for any applicant seem to be fading in importance and other things rising in importance. What are you seeing right now as top of mind and the most critical areas for folks?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. And I would say, at least in the MBA admissions world, I think a lot of those changes kind of have reverted back. So
Okay.
there's still a small number of programs that offer test waivers. For the most part, you have to apply for them. They're not automatically granted. And the top programs like Harvard and Stanford and Wharton and Columbia and the like do still require standardized testing. And so it really is kind of comes down to program specific criteria. But all that said, there were some major changes that happened to the standardized tests this year. So that's going to kind of come down the pipeline next year. But I think really top of mind right now for our clients, and particularly as folks are getting ready to submit their applications in round 2 in just a few weeks, is really going to be around career goal development, right? I mean, we've seen
Mm.
headlines everywhere. Recruiting is down at the MBA level. The job market is softer, especially at some of those higher level paying jobs. And so what that means is that, business schools need to kind of dial back their risk, right? Because they are rated in the rankings and everything else based on their job placement metrics. And so when they look at admitting a student or a prospective student, they really need to understand, okay, are your goals going to be realistic? And do they make the case for the MBA? And so
Right.
that's even more important component of an application. It's always important, but especially in a tight job market, you need to present yourself as a low risk applicant, right? That you're going to use this degree to go do something really amazing, but also very realistic for you given your background.
Wow, that's so interesting because that is a fine line of what you're kind of talking about. So you want differentiation, but you certainly don't want it to feel grandiose, right? I mean, right?
And unrealistic, right? Or
Yeah.
unsubstantiated.
Right. So if I say I want to get this MBA and then I'm going to, go to Antarctica and solve all of global warming overnight. Maybe not.
I would say go do that. You don't need an MBA.
Yeah, go do that. I'm not sure. Learn, yeah. Well, I don't know. Negotiation skills might help you with that task for sure. For sure. Well, Melody, I mean, it's a fascinating area that you focused on here with this business, and it's exciting also for me to hear when an entrepreneur gets past those early years. You know, you are now in that very rare air space of a company that's made it so far, right? Not I can't remember the percentage of companies now, but I think it's like only 10% make it to the point that you're at right now. But tell me a little bit what fires the passion for you on this one.
For me, it really comes down to the applicants and the difference we're making in their lives. And I know that might sound, a little bit abstract, but, for me, getting an MBA was such a life-changing experience. I mean, it literally gave me the tools to do what I'm doing right now. But more than that, it really just completely opened my perspective and my mind and my relationships to new ways of thinking and living. And acting that really have made my life better at every single step of the way. And so every single applicant that I meet, whether or not they decide to work with me, I am supportive of them on their journey, and I want to see
Hmm.
them achieve their goals, and I want to, of course, help them, give them the best chance of getting accepted if they do choose to work with us. But really, it's about enabling people's dreams of higher education, right? And so many of our clients, especially I would say, in the last couple of years, are coming from backgrounds where maybe not a lot of people in their industry or in their company are getting an MBA, but they're really looking to kind of set themselves apart and take that leap of faith, even though it feels really scary. And being a part of that, and then of course getting to celebrate with them when they have good news and just know what's coming down the pipeline for them. It's just an incredible feeling, and it makes all the hours of essay editing and working on Christmas Eve worth it.
I mean, I'm having kind of a slight dose of trauma here, Melody, because I happen to have I have two sons. One is a sophomore at university, and the other one is a freshman. So I have literally spent the last two holidays editing, reviewing, editing again and again and again essays. So I know how challenging that process can be. And actually, I would say what a blessing, for your customers to have that because it is really, really helpful. And you can see how people can kind of go off on the wrong tangents if they don't have really, really good advice. But,
If you're doing it by yourself, you have no sounding board, no one to kind
yeah.
of give you that reassurance that you're on the right track.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel like your job is like a guide slash psychologist slash, you know, editor slash, I don't know. So it's really quite a interesting consulting role for sure. So 2024, Melody, here we are, looking into a new year, an exciting year, one that is an Olympic year. It's an election year. It's going to be filled with lots and lots of change. What's on the horizon in the MBA marketplace?
Well, I alluded to this briefly earlier, but I think probably one of the biggest changes that's going to really start rippling through the application process next year is just the changes in the standardized tests. So both the GMAT and the GRE were revised last year. The change with the GMAT was more dramatic, including a new scoring scale that is going to look and feel a little bit different from what everyone's been used to for so long. And so, next year is the year where all programs are going to start accepting those new scores, and that's going to start being a part of the applicant's prep process. So I definitely think that's going to be something that's going to give people a little bit of heartburn. We're going to get a lot of questions about that. But I think bigger picture too, kind of going back to what I was talking about kind of our employer partnerships for us, that is a really big focus going into next year.
Hmm.
To really kind of explore and enter into beneficial partnerships for employers who are looking to continue to understand how they can better serve their employees, how they can better contribute to employee retention and positive employee experiences. And think about how we can partner with those folks and bring the MBA into that mix and really demonstrate how going back to getting a part-time MBA or an executive MBA can really help strengthen a company's workforce and lead to much better business
Yeah.
results.
No, I mean, I can't say enough about the value of graduate education, MBA programs, and certainly the skills that you pick up. Also, certainly some of the probably understated, but probably extremely valuable things, which is simply the networks. The networks that you build are extraordinary, extraordinary. So, folks out there, if you're thinking about grad school, find a way to work with Melody Jones and Vantage Point MBA Admissions Consulting. Melody, if someone wanted to find out more about what you and the team are working on, where's the best place to reach you?
Absolutely. Just shoot me an email. You can find me at melody@vantagepointmba.com, or you can always look me up on LinkedIn. Melody. There's many of us.
Excellent. Well, Melody, thank you so much for being on Uncaged. We've been speaking with Melody Jones. She's a co-founder of Vantage Point MBA Admissions Consulting, and been talking to her about the state of applying to grad school and really the process of what you have to go through, how best to navigate it, and really some of the changes that we're going to see in the very, very near future in 2024. Melody, thank you again. It's been wonderful having you on the show, and we look forward to having you back.
Thank you so much.